Hi, I'm Gigi Downey. I chose Gottman's book, A Couple's Guide to Communication, which was published in 1979. This book was different and useful in comparison to others because it contained practice exercises as well as a self-assessment test and a troubleshooting guide at the end, which you don't see in a lot of books. So it's kind of like a hands-on workbook, which I thought was really interesting, especially because it is a guide. So it's definitely nice to have those extras in it. The main idea or point I got from this book was that intent equals impact. It is important to be clear and precise when talking to your partner and assume that the other person doesn't know what's going on in the speaker's head. It's important to state exactly what you are thinking, wanting, and feeling. By doing this and practicing being a good listener, the speaker is making sure the intent is understood by their listener. He also emphasizes the importance to realize why communication might not have happened. Messages contain two components, content and feeling. The content is the meaning of the message, and the feeling is the how the message was delivered. When proper communication doesn't happen, especially in a relationship, it's really important that you ask your partner for feedback. So you guys can both kind of get to the bottom of why it didn't happen and go around ways of figuring out what you can change to make sure it does happen. The first section is about listening and validation. So there are lots of examples and scenarios throughout the book and in this chapter, which is really helpful to kind of get a better understanding. But basically, this goes over how conversations between couples can vary depending on feelings, delivery, listening, stuff like that. It's important to show validation as well as actively listen when the other person is talking. Then he goes over leveling, and this is obviously really important because it helps the couple know where they stand and kind of where they want to go. So definitely, being on the same page is really important, and it helps them express their feelings and communicate effectively. And then we go into editing, and this chapter kind of focuses on politeness as well as the importance of sincere, positive appreciation. It's important to remember that we're polite to each other because we love and care about each other, and sometimes you need to edit things that you're maybe thinking so that they don't take it in a bad way. Like if you're in a bad mood or something like that, sometimes it's better to edit out certain things or edit in certain things to make sure you're not hurting your partner's feelings. Gottman also talks about the importance of negotiating agreements in relationships, the positive outcomes for change in a relationship, as well as self-change and its benefits on how we think and feel by focusing on the positive. So understanding how to make specific complaints to your partner is important. It not only helps start the change, but it creates a specific reason or goal to focus on changing. He also goes over hidden agendas. An example of a hidden agenda is a conversation that keeps cycling back because it remains unresolved. Hidden agendas are related to leveling by opening up about things that you may not agree on, by being precise and clear, and it becomes easier to come to a resolution. And then chapter 6 is about solving sexual problems. Obviously, these are important as well, especially in an intimate relationship. And he discusses that, like with any other issues in marriage, it is important to focus on these and talk about them, and they usually have a resolution. So I think that was a really important point. And even in this chapter, he mentioned sex counseling isn't weird. People do it all the time, and you shouldn't feel shamed for doing it. And then he goes into how to get through a crisis. He definitely mentions that these are fixes for a short-term crisis or a temporary fix to get kind of over the hump. Obviously, if it's kind of a bigger deal, you might have to implement some other things. But definitely realizing that politeness is very important during this because of how you or your partner is feeling. Just trying to keep that sense of lightness around each other is really important. Then he goes into making a good thing better. Obviously, we know that's all great. We always want to focus on growing and developing and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely important to continue to grow the relationship, continue to focus on each other's interests and ways to connect. And then the final chapter is about helping decide couples helping couples decide if they want to go through with a divorce. So maybe it's something they've talked about before, but this step kind of helps them realize, do they want to keep working on their relationship, or do they want to call it quits? And if they do want to call it quits, like how they can go about doing that in a civil manner. This book is definitely written for couples. However, one could say that it could be written for the professional, as there was a preface for couples and for professionals. So that being said, it could be either, but in my opinion, being such like a workbook, I assume that it's written for couples. But I think it would be beneficial for couples, single people, people that need to work on communication, people that are interested, like a school that we're in, stuff like that. I think it's really important to review things like leveling, editing, making a good thing better all the time in every aspect, but also focusing on communication in relationships, because these are ones that we use day to day and they should be really important to us. So it's important for us to focus on them and help them grow. This book was very informative and helpful because of the workshops and self-tests, but also the scenarios made the work relatable and applicable to personal situations. I really enjoyed reading this book, and I'm actually looking forward to reading some more of Gottman's work. Thank you.